Absolutely. And that's what I mean with that toddler level. A lot of people don't outgrow that age where they immediately, when something happens in their life, they go back to that level of where they only feel their emotions. And then, of course, they can't use their brain anymore, because when those emotions take over, then only the reptilian brain, that comes from the reptilian brain, and then they can't use their frontal cortex because they're not in a state of where they just pause and look at the things from a more, not a personal level, but from a more, developed level.
Hi, Veronique.
Hi, Peter.
How are you?
I'm doing great, besides the very late hour.
Thanks for taking the time on this very late hour. Now,
you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Immediately. So we touched already upon it a little bit during our private intro, I would call it. I mean, Corona, the lockdown, we're coming out a little bit out of it. What is an impact for you for Corona? Is it a positive thing, an opportunity, or did you live in fear, which I think you didn't? But anyway.
I had the time of my life almost. I have to say. Well, fact is that ever since 2020, my energy is brilliant compared to the last decade. So that's one thing. And I clearly remember 13th of March, which was sort of the day where we went in semi-lockdown. And so there was some things going on in my head, because I got one message after the other from the news apps that I'm following, because I don't watch the news. I just look at some small headlines from the apps that I follow. And it was one message after the other. And there was, of course, for a certain moment, some fear kicked in, but more in a sense that I was asking myself, what will my clients do? Mm-hmm. And then my second thought was, oh, I'm actually working on some major accounts right now. And then my third thought was, oh, they've already paid, or everything is already in order. So then I calculated sort of, okay, how would this turn out for me if nobody will accept any offers that I've sent out at the moment? Mm-hmm. And I thought, I can last a very long time. And then there was that little question where I thought, what is the market going to do? And what is everybody outside my expertise, for example, and outside my audience in general going to do? And I thought, well, if everybody falls and I will fall too, well, that means that everybody else has also fallen already. So that was the moment where I had a very positive thought, because I got immediately some very good ideas. Mm-hmm. And it's like I'm thriving during a crisis, because I kept on getting ideas for industries that I'm not even working with, or that I don't have any connection with. Mm-hmm. And I started distributing some ideas. And then at a certain moment, I just stopped, because I thought, well, I'm going to think of myself too, instead of giving away a lot of ideas. But no, I think it's a brilliant period in which you have lots of opportunities if you see them.
Yeah. Now, you just mentioned in the beginning that you have more energy in 2020 than the previous decade. Do you have an explanation why that is? Is because the sun and the moon is on the right axis that you have more energy, or?
I have no idea what exactly, but I had a severe burnout. I crashed late July 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasted for about 3.5 years. So in that 3.5 years, I learned a lot about what a good health, which was already a high priority,
Mm-hmm.
but I had no idea that on a cellular level, my body had been completely worn out, so to speak. So, and I had to learn a lot about health on that level. And I worked very hard to get my energy high again. But actually, it must have started already almost 10 years previous to that time where I crashed. So it was very hard, very hard last decade, to
Yeah.
be honest. Yeah.
And do you see then the burnout periods as a gift, as a kind of where you look upon that you needed to experience that to be where you are right now?
Maybe it's one of those things again that I can pass on to others. The knowledge that I gained there. Maybe it's again something that I can pass on to others because the experience was very extreme at a certain level, and it was probably also a message to listen more to my body and not always overcome a certain level of exhaustion with my willpower.
Does that then mean that you were used to listening more to your head than below?
Definitely, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
And is that something that you inherited from your financial background a very long time ago when you were in the financial world? Or is
I
that...
think it's even before that. It was in my education.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard work was the only way to go.
Yeah, but that's a myth.
Absolutely. You have to work smart
Mm-hmm.
instead of hard. Well, of course, you can't establish a company with just
Okay.
being lazy. So you have to work a little bit hard also, but especially smart.
And then you have now routines that you, I would say, take time for yourself, or to say, I'm going to go into the red again, I'm going to cross a line, now I stop. Is that something you feel in terms of your creativity? Because when you are burned out, you can be productive, but you cannot be creative. But right now, when I hear you, you are very creative.
Correct. Yeah. And it shows in details too, because there was a time where I didn't like any stuff in my wardrobe, for example. I mean, nothing appealed to me. And ever since I got better physically and my energy level went up, I got also very much creative with all the stuff that is in my wardrobe again. So that was, and I liked to love it again. I mean, it's maybe a stupid example, but to me, it was really an example of, or a proof of the fact that I was getting better. And so at the same time, my creativity professionally went up with I don't know how much percent. It was crazy. Now I just need the time to implement everything, of course, and the ideas sometimes were already there, but I didn't have the energy to really execute upon them. Yeah.
And another thing, to protect yourself, did you then learn to say more no?
Yeah. Also, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Rely on my own intuition also, according to certain people sometimes. Don't worry so much if in a certain relationship, for example, something doesn't go as well as I would like it to be, because if I'm doing my utter best and something doesn't really work as I would want it to be, then maybe that is not the right party to be friends with or to work with or something. Also, I take time off during the weekend, which was for a very long time. Even in my Deloitte time, I worked very, very, very hard, even during the weekends.
Yeah.
And
But you still have hair, because I did that also, but I lost mine. So you can be happy and gratefully still have hair.
True, yeah. Well, my body crashed at a different level, but fortunately, I still have my hair. That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, going back to the Corona period, if I'm correct. No, I'm going to go back. So you worked in several financial positions, and then until 2011, and in 2012 you started your own business. What was the drive? What was the trigger? Was that one day? It was in Deloitte, I believe. It was your last position. You were like, I had this with this junior consultant, senior manager, partner, blah 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 thing. The race for, and then you realized I've put my ladder against the wrong mountain. And then you woke up, you had an awakening, and said, I'm going to start on my own. How did that story went?
Actually, I really got fed up with the specialty that I was in, with the expertise that I had, due to the fact that it's like you're in a box. I felt like I was in a box, and I had explored already different boxes within the financial world. So within Deloitte, I had the chance to change every 4 or 5 years into a different expertise within the field. So I loved that. And at a certain moment, I really had it with that, because as a CPA, you also need to fulfill some duties to fill out every year, just to keep your title. It's the same with lawyers. To keep your title, you have to fill out documents where you prove that you've had the right education. And I love to learn all the time, but the box had become too small for me. And I was already developing myself into other aspects of entrepreneurship. And every time people around me said, yeah, Véronique, they said, like, stay in your box. The box is already big enough for you. Keep it with your financial knowledge, and stay away from all the other knowledge.
So they kept you down.
Yeah, they just wanted to keep me in the box because my ideas were too far-fetched for them. Yeah. I like to think out of the box, and I like to take things to a very basic level of, this is the problem, and you don't have to solve the problem with strategies that everybody is using. Think differently. And I was able to do that. I come from my grandfather was a farmer until my mother was like 14 years old, and he gave me a lot of tips, like, just use your logic mind,
common sense.
And common sense, absolutely. Yeah.
Boerenverstand.
Absolutely. And also far away from any politic, any company politic and politic outside the company. And I just look at the goal, and then I say, okay, this is the most pragmatic solution to reach that goal, taking into account every other aspect of, let's say, people that are involved, but not on a personality level, on a corporate level. And because I believe that the corporate goal is in first, it should be the main goal, and then everybody should tap into that corporate goal and the corporate vision and mission.
What I hear a little bit is that, I'm not going to say it on a positive way, is that in order to flourish your potential, that corporate way of working or living, did not match your personality and your values. And so you started your own company in order to combine those, that creativity. Maybe that's the right word.
Correct. Yeah.
Instead of doing all the same things and ticking the boxes in the Excel like everybody's doing, because we have done it already for 20 years.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And as I also saw the importance of new leadership versus old leadership. And I really thought that was the way to go.
It's an interesting one. I'm going to make a jump right now. So I had Rick Ferra last week, and he also talked about new leaders. You're talking about new leadership around 2011, 2012. Do you believe that post-corona, if we can call it post-corona, because I don't think the world will be the same, although the traffic jams are started to coming back. Do you believe that we need new leaders who are, in his words, more compassionate, more human, more purpose-driven than ever before?
I already had that thought, or I already thought that back in 2012.
Okay.
And for a long time, well, at the beginning, for some time, I thought this is the only way to go. I'm not sure. After a few years in that expertise, I'm not really sure, because there will be that old establishment will continue for quite a while, I think, because there are also people that need some kind of certainty and that need other people to tell them what to do. Not everybody is capable, apparently, to take upon intrapreneurship or to take 100% responsibility for what they think and for what they do. I also strongly believe in an intelligent disobedience.
Yeah.
Leaders need people around them that are intelligent, disobedient when necessary.
Yeah, but in the old command and control structure, I mean, it was the boss who is going to say it, and you had to, if I say jump, you say how high, so you execute and you don't ask questions. I mean, I also really believe that in the companies I worked in, especially startups, the most successful ones were that there was tension, just like in music. That's interesting to listen to. So this means that you have an opinion, you are the CEO, and I'm doing sales, and I have another opinion. It's not my goal to overrule you or to have a clash just for the opinions to win that game, but the common goal is to bring our company to a higher level. And so this means that kind of, no, I don't agree, I see it this way, and in that co-creation process we will come to some kind of, I don't know, brainstorm and eventually some kind of solution. So but in that old command and control, there is no room for that, I believe.
No, absolutely not. Well, I believe that a good leader is someone that surrounds himself with people that are more intelligent in a certain field of expertise where he is not, where he does not have that expertise. And in the old leadership structure, there is indeed no room, because the boss says, I am the smartest. But if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, I believe. Because leading a company takes so much knowledge. And as a good leader, you need to know snippets of what is going on, of course, but you don't need to have control about everything, because if you don't give people the ability to explore their expertise to the fullest and put it let's say, at the disposal of, or at the usage of the company, then the company will gain from it in a whole.
Yeah. I know also that you also like Jan Bommeré.
Yep.
And what I learned from Jan is that you have like you and me, but we are sitting together, we are discussing, in Zoom we're working together, is that you are in some kind of flow and co-creation. And this means that both our egos are at the door. We are really in the here and now and discussing and creating something. I mean, and the fact is that it's not about you or it's not about me, but a real leader should really manage relationships between people in order to flourish That's instead of an organization, it's more like an organism. So where the power is really in the relationships. What is your take on that?
I agree with him, because that's one of my frustrations sometimes, that I see people that we all have an ego, and that is okay, because otherwise you wouldn't have a clean t-shirt on and you wouldn't have shaved yourself, for example. So we all need a healthy level of ego, and we also need to be proud of all the skills that we have and use them. But an overrated ego is most of the time someone who feels very small inside, and they have to compensate that with an overrated ego, and then it's all about the person. And I also believe that we can leave our egos, if I feel great and you feel great, and we're not taking things personally. When you say, Veronique, I don't agree with you, I don't have to take it personally, because it's an opinion. I am admitted to have my own opinion. You are admitted to your opinion, and then maybe we come to an agreement somewhere in the middle to do the best for the company. If we're talking about companies, to do the best for the company, but also politicians, once they are elected, they should get rid of the party politics and do what is right for the country.
That's I fully agree. Let's start with ourselves. Now, we have met a couple of years ago, and you come from a financial background, but I've met you in a completely other situation, whereas I have met you, and it's my perception that you are a great networker, business to business, and also a huge advocate for social selling, selling on LinkedIn. I mean, coming from a financial background, then to selling, let's make it general, and then to the LinkedIn. Where did you find that link, or was that just an opportunity, or customers just coming to you asking that question? How did that come? That passion for LinkedIn.
Well, how to make that transition? When I started my own company, I found out that the market thought that I was coming from a total different area and total different field of expertise. For me, in my head, I had already been doing that stuff about entrepreneurship, about leadership, about communication for a very long time. But I entered into a new market, sort of. And so I'm not a salesperson, and I needed a tactic or a tool or a strategy, or all together. I needed something to put myself in the market. But when it comes to sales, I really had that impression that sales was very sleazy, sort of like the car salesperson that shovels up a car, shovels a car up your throat, something like that. And that's not my style. So I needed something that was close to my personality. And I truly love to talk to people. I truly love to build long-term relationships. I also have always long-term is always on my mind. And so I developed actually a strategy that was called much later, a strategy that was called social selling, but I actually already used it avant la lettre, like we say. So, and I saw that a lot of other companies really needed it, because we were entering a new era. After 2008, the world shifted completely. And I still saw a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs who thought that they could still use the methods, the tactics, the tools, and the strategies from before. So they said, yeah, but we've done it for 20 years, or we're doing it already such a long time like this. And I thought, no. Or I also saw entrepreneurs who were like feeling a little bit lost, like it's the crisis. And I thought, no, it's not the crisis. I mean, everything new that you need nowadays is already invented. You can just use it and implement it. It's as easy as that.
Okay. And
So,
yes, go on.
so that's why I elaborated my, um, let's say, my portfolio to the market. That's where I elaborated. And fortunately, I had already taught myself the principles of networking, because in my Deloitte time, one of the reasons why I did not really reach my goal there, I wanted to become a partner. And besides the fact that I believe nowadays there are still no women in the partner structure, but that's too easy to use that excuse, I think. So one of the reasons why I did not reach that level was because I didn't do my internal networking.
Yeah.
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 Okay. But again, that's a downside, which became then one of your positive sides, because I think you're great sales, to be honest. And you also spoke at a sales conference a couple of years ago. So, I mean, now, recently you started From Fear to Mastery. Where does that idea come from? Where did you get
That
that?
was actually the idea that I got on the 13th of March,
Okay.
while I was thinking about, what's going on and how is the market going to...
But that idea, were you walking down the street? Were you sitting behind your computer? Were you, I don't know, reading a book? Were you waking up during a meditation? I don't know. How did you get that idea? It just came to you. That's how it sounds.
Well, the exact part, how I do it right now, how I put it in the world, that idea, that's what I was in my kitchen. I was in my kitchen when I was having all those thoughts, making some coffee, I believe. And, but this small part, and nowadays we call it onto mastery, simply, not from fear to mastery anymore, because not everybody wants to admit that they have some fear.
Okay.
So we left it out and we just call it onto mastery. But it's actually a small part of the major master plan that I came up with, I think 6 years ago, but which I still haven't started. And I thought, if not now, then when? And yeah, I proposed it to, actually during a call with a friend, I estimate her very high in her field of expertise too. There is a lot of resemblance between us, and I just proposed to her, why don't we do this together? And it's a brilliant cooperation between the two of us. And yeah, we want to keep on working on that, besides the fact that I still have my other expertise that I bring to the companies, of course.
And where does your complementary lies between you two?
Actually, it starts with what you just mentioned. We both don't have an ego. It's not about us. It's about us giving our knowledge, serving, and giving our knowledge to the ones who need it. She's already for years into executive coaching, around leadership too. So that's where we have a lot of complementary points. She's also someone who strives for excellence all the time. People call me a perfectionist, but I prefer to call it that I always strive to do my best, my utter best. So I strive for excellence all the time. And that's where we really find each other.
And are you a perfectionist? I mean, you know what a perfectionist is, yeah, of course. So
yeah, I try to balance it, and I try to comfort myself sometimes with 80% is already good enough, because my 80% is most of the time like 110% of the let's say the mediocrity.
Yeah. It really sounds that onto mastery is like the beginning of your, I wouldn't call it life mission, your purpose, but it sounds really larger than large. And also the fact that I think it's just a start, and it's allez, it comes from very deep within you.
True.
It's not something from your head, I believe, and
No.
from your, it's really something maybe from the heart or somewhere in that region.
Yeah,
Is that?
absolutely, absolutely. I really, actually, I really believe that the economy,
Mhm.
education, and health are the three main pillars of a prosperous society.
Yeah.
And if we could all focus on those, and if people are really aware of how well they can contribute by exploring themselves and being the best they can be,
Mm-hmm.
and letting go of the ego, letting go of the toddler behavior that a lot of people have nowadays, exploring what their own goals are, and really mastering their own emotions. I mean, the world would be heaven.
But that's actually taking full ownership of your own life and not putting any luck or in somebody else's hands. There's traffic jam, or really getting rid of that victim role.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
is that then a program for everybody who has the guts to face reality and look into the mirror and to dig deep within him or herself?
That is absolutely the outcome. People don't really step into the program with that vision,
Mm,
but they have somewhere something inside themselves, or they are in a transition phase, or they feel that they don't use their full potential yet, or they are somewhere a little bit unhappy with what is already going on, or they see that they have more possibilities, but they can't grasp them.
mm.
Those are the people that step into our program nowadays.
And then I assume you're covering a lot of areas in a person's life. I mean, it's health, it's money, it's family, it's I don't know, physical, it's mentally, it's emotionally, it's spiritual. I don't know. Is that all those domains that you're touching?
Yeah, absolutely. So the basic model that we use for that is the Wheel of Life,
Mm-hmm.
which we have, we have 8 compartments in that Wheel of Life. And so in every compartment, there is, of course, intimate relationships, there is friends and family, there is career or finances, there is health, there is environment. I mean, many departments or parts. We've defined 8, and within those 8, it's all about knowing what you want. A lot goes back to the values on one hand, and then the mission and the vision on the other end, and everything in between.
And is there some kind of um, red line that you see in the how do you call that, the coaches, the candidates who are coming in? Is that then people who have had a burnout or who have a low self-esteem, or they don't know who they are in life, and they're just doing a job and they're living in some kind of golden cage, but they feel that something is not working for them, and they're like, is this it now? Is this life? I mean,
Sometimes that is the realization they have during the challenges that we do, because the step that they take is much smaller at first. They just have a doubt here, an uncomfort there, a question there. And so at the beginning, their questions are smaller, but during the challenge that we do, they see that actually the issue is much bigger.
and you just touched upon the partnership thing with Deloitte, that there are no females there. And it's a cliche, I know. Do you see a difference between men and women, where women, because that's my perception a little bit with the podcast, that not every woman is open to stand out and to stand up and to speak out. Um, so that's because I had, I would say, complaints, in the area that I work in IT, because that's where I started. And so there are more men at this moment. So, and then people said, Peter, you should also take some women. So I focus now mostly on women, but it's quite challenging, to be honest, because yeah, they have to think about it, and they don't know. Whereas men are more, I wouldn't say driven by their ego, but they're likely more to stand out. Is that also something that you see within the candidates, or?
Not specifically. No, not in that area. No, not specifically. But what you say is not very unlogic to me. I mean, yeah, I see that too. When I just walk around in my world, and when you see that, yeah, a lot of women have a problem with being visible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
okay.
in general. But then
Yeah.
there's also the fact that a lot of women probably don't actually have that dream of leaving a legacy. A lot
No.
of women just like to be a mother and do a good job, but nothing more, nothing less. So we can't force it upon women who don't want it.
No.
But others, yeah, there are a lot of women who struggle also with that
No.
visibility.
Now, onto mastery for me sounds really like personal growth, personal development.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Belgium, that's still an area which is growing exponentially. But like we're around the same generation. Like 20 years ago, that was I wasn't aware of that, because my first book when I was 28 was from Stephen Covey. And then at the time that personal development, like the Tony Robbins and the Jim Rohns, was considered like La La Land, especially American bullshit bingo. Do you see a difference in your candidate coaches in terms of generations, in terms like we see a lot of youngsters like around 20 plus or 30 plus, 20 plus, 25 that are getting interested in your program? Or is it more, I would say, the older ones? I consider ourselves as young.
It's both, actually. So we have people in their 30s and we have people in the 50s. Yep.
Okay.
Both. Yep, absolutely.
Now, I feel that you are, since the 13th of the 19th of the 18th of March, the 13th was, I believe, you are in a flow state all the time. Is that correct?
Well, not always, because if I have to do administration, then I'm not really feeling a lot of flow. But
Yeah,
yes.
I understand. But I'm going
Yeah.
to rephrase my question. What are actually the biggest struggles right now? Is it finding customers, finding suppliers? Is it selling? Is it marketing? Is it, or there is no problem, no struggle?
At the moment, it's balancing my time.
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
actually, yeah, what I'm doing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're living really in abundance, and it's really about
Oh, yes.
making sure that you don't step into the trap of that passion that's flowing, that positive energy, that you are not. Yeah, I'm going to say it otherwise. That it's aligned action, but that you're not overdoing it. That you have to stop and say, take time, do
Yeah.
something else, and relax.
Absolutely, because the first challenge was also during the weekends. And since we still had to make the content
Mm-hmm.
and then at the same time do the daily calls that we did with our challengers, it was quite intensive. So at a certain moment, I really thought, no, I can't keep up with this tempo, because it was very funny also to experience that I had to be present every day at 5 p.m. Now we do it at 6:30 p.m. But at 5 p.m. we had our daily call with our challengers. And so also on a Saturday and a Sunday. So, and at a Sunday, I sometimes have these lazy Sundays where I don't shower and I just put on something and I'm just doing a lot of stuff, but not really going out. And I don't have to be present like I'm here now. And so being that for 30 consecutive days, it was quite hard actually. So I really felt a little bit exhausted at a certain moment. Yeah. So that's the lesson that we got out of that, of course. Yeah.
It sounds that the challenges are over right now. Are people then still be able to subscribe and join your program?
No, we're doing consecutive challenges all the time, new ones. And the follow-up is actually a year program where we're going to do a monthly session of 2 hours. So now it was daily sessions of 10 minutes and then a call in the evening to discuss about the challenge. But then we're really going to do some trainings again on all the subjects that are within that container of mastery, self-mastery.
Okay. In the beginning of our conversations, you mentioned also that you are touching industries that you don't have any knowledge about. What are those industries, or can you kind of talk about it?
Well, it was simply a fact that I had that I saw a message on the news like, some actor who didn't have a job anymore, or someone else who didn't know what to do. And I thought, well, you can do this and you can do that. And it's so easy to do this and that because there is a problem. You have maybe a solution from your expertise. And then that I just saw opportunities for them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you are 40 plus. If you can go back in time and you would meet the Véronique when she is 18 years young, ready to go to university, starting her financial studies, what would you say to her as advice?
Don't mind what other people say and just follow your heart. And you are more than good enough. That's what I would tell her.
Great. And if you could do the other way around, if you can now add 10 years to your life, who is Véronique within 10 years?
I think I really would want to be known as the woman who taught her audience to think for themselves and outgrow the toddler level.
Okay, that's the second time you mentioned that toddler. What do you really mean about that toddler effect?
If you see, well, the difference between us as humans and all the other living species is that we have brains that we can use to think and make up our own mind, and we can think for ourselves. But what I see a lot is that a lot of people follow the masses, and a lot of people, even people that come from university or have university degrees, just reproduce what has been taught to them. And they don't really make up their own mind. They don't really use their brain to come up with new solutions. They don't really use their brain to evaluate what is, for example, shown on television or produced by the media. And they just, I mean, even simple, we have that example. Everybody uses the term social distancing. I mean, I'm pulling my hair out of my head because it's a stupid expression. It's only physical distancing. We can be social as much as possible as we can. If this would have happened in the previous era, then we would have been distant from each other. But nowadays, I mean, what about social media? So we can be social as much as possible, even more than before, but it's just a physical distancing.
Yeah, I fully agree. I also believe that a lot of people, when they are graduating from high school, university, whatever studies, that they, with their general knowledge, that they are ready for life and that they don't have to learn anything anymore, especially not about personal growth, especially not. And it's exactly that personal growth, who you're going to discover who you really are and what you're standing for, who is going to give you really a life instead of surviving.
Right.
And and indeed then you get these things that people are just going to swallow everything which has been thrown at them, opinions of other people and media, and then they believe that and they don't question that.
No. It's funny that you mention it, and that's why I say that the economy and education and health is so important, because our education system nowadays is so far from the current reality, and the gap is growing by the day. And that's when people graduate, actually they know nothing.
No.
They know nothing, and they should start to learn what is really important in corporate and everyday life. And I'm really an advocate of lifelong learning. I've done it all my life, and I keep on doing it. And secondly, I have to drink because my throat is sore. Sorry. And also, when it comes to personal growth and personal development, I think that should actually be something that should be taught at school at a toddler level already, before any other skill, because that's where the resilience comes from. Every person that has a real problem in life, or I mean, the best example that I can come up right now is when Fort Genk shut down. I remember, like I said before, I don't watch the news, but that was a moment when I put on the television to watch the news. And I remember that there was a reporter in the back of a car where two people, a man and a woman, both working at Fort Genk. And it was November, October of, well, the day that it was announced. The closure was in 2 years later. So it was only announced back then. And the woman starts to cry in the car. And I remember that she said, what are we going to do? We don't have a job anymore.
Yeah,
and
I remember that. I remember those images.
Really? You have now the chance 2 years in advance that you're going to lose your job. In 2 years, you have 2 years. I mean, nobody on this planet does have that chance of getting notified 2 years up front that you're going to lose your job. So you have 2 years of an opportunity. And that is where people don't use their brain to think logically or to see the huge opportunity that is given to them.
Yeah, that's something I sometimes have a discussion with people, that they and then the answer comes, for you it's easy, you are no, it's not. I have to do it just like you. It's just that I don't see it as the problem. It's my reaction to the problem which is different than yours. You just go as a problem, and the problem is the victim, and you go into a victim position, and that's that. For me, it's like, okay, maybe you should do something different. And it's really about distancing from that attachment and not being attached to that. And especially, I'm 45 right now. And I hear that from people, yeah, I'm 45, yeah, I cannot change anymore. I cannot change job anymore. I cannot change my career. For me, it's like, I'm just beginning. I'm just getting warmed up here. I mean, my energy level is as high as ever. So I'm just getting started. I mean, I just touched just briefly what I can do. I just learned some things. I fucked it up quite sometimes. And I'm like, okay, now I'm ready.
Yes.
But I learned not to go on with that discussion, because if they are not ready, they're not ready. And sometimes you need something very difficult, traumatic in your life to open your eyes to see things differently.
Maybe, yeah.
And to take ownership of your life.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean with that toddler level. A lot of people don't outgrow that age where they immediately, when something happens in their life, they go back to that level of where they only feel their emotions. And then of course they can't use their brain anymore, because when those emotions take over, then only the reptilian brain, that comes from the reptilian brain, and then they can't use their frontal cortex, because they're not in a state of where they just pause and look at the things from a more not a personal level, but from a more developed level.
Yeah, because
where they don't.
Yeah, they that emotion. They say, "I am that emotion."
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's not it's you feel that emotion, and emotion
Correct.
is like a cloud, it's going to
Yes.
go away, but they take that
They
emotion as the
identify with it.
yes, and they've been
Yes.
paralyzed by that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Now who are your role models that you feel inspired by?
The first that comes to mind is definitely Oprah Winfrey.
Okay,
And,
cool.
yeah, and women like Arianna Huffington and Madeleine Albright and Condoleezza Rice, and apart from the politics that they are maybe believing in, but just as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know that Jan Bomberé lives in the neighborhood of Oprah? Eh?
Oh, I didn't ask him, really?
I did ask them. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because I said at the end, I wish you all the best. And next year, you're going to with your new book about trauma, which is going to be published in English also, because that's his masterpiece.
Yes.
And you're going to sit next to Oprah. Yeah, cool. Now, last question. What is still for you, for Veronique, a big dream, but a crazy one. I mean, I'm not talking about, this program should be very successful and a lot of millions, hearts will be touched and transformed. But what is a crazy dream? Is it being in the show? Because I had somebody who actually said that, and a woman from Singapore who said, my big dream is to sit with my new book in Oprah. And it was like 1 month ago, and right now her book is already an Amazon bestseller. And she meant it, eh? So what is for you a big dream? A crazy dream, eh? Crazy dream, something, a big hairy dream.
I would really, really love to be the go-to woman, then go-to person for all the women around the world who really who think they have to do it alone, or who feel sometimes alone. Yeah. Yes, and I also would like to be in Oprah's show.
Yeah, that's great. I think we need more. How do you say that? I'm now going to say something which is going to be quite shocking for a lot of men. It's something Lenny Kravitz said. I think we had our time with the men. We know what the results are. It's time for the women right now to take up. And I'm talking about the real female energy. Yeah? So I'm not talking about women who have been losing themselves and turning into a male kind of corporate energy. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And I think that we need more. And I also think that men then will be defrozen and warmed up and be more connected, and the world would be a much better place and a healthier place.
I think we need both.
Of course.
But
we have both, we have both, yes, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have both within us also. But that combination, if people would really see the value within each other and cooperate that way, again, with the ego at the door and not at the table, then then we can do great things, I believe.
Is there anything you want to share that we did not touch upon, Veronique?
No, not really, because you asked me my bigger goal, and then what I truly believe, what the pillars are of a prosperous society. So, no, yeah.
Yeah, you're radiating, you know that? Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, you really feel that you are. It's really purpose driven. It's really beautiful to see that. I really admire that in people who are
Thank you.
striving for their dream, their passion, their purpose. That's yeah. It's not about the money. It's really about that. Yeah, and it everything then you will come to you. I mean, the fulfillment, the happiness, instead of chasing fake happiness. Véronique De Prycker, I'm going to put your socials in the links below. I want to thank you. I'm very grateful to taking the time, and I wish you all the best and all good luck. And I'm very confident that you are and going to be a big role model for all women who are feeling themselves small right now, who can be, yeah, who they want to be, and show themselves in the world.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity and your time and the great talk that we had.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.